Hi, I'm Rebecca from Ingvid. In today's lesson, I'll give you 10 important tips to do well and to get a higher score on the speaking section of your IELTS exam, or actually on any oral speaking test where you're sitting with a live examiner. Okay, so these tips don't apply actually to the TOEFL where your answers are recorded, but it's for any English exam where you're sitting with a real examiner. Okay? Now, the IELTS, of course, the speaking section of the IELTS test is about 11 or 14 minutes long, has 3 different sections and so on. And the IELTS is an exam which is, it's an English proficiency exam. It's used for immigration purposes, for example, to Canada and Australia. It's used for admission to universities where English is the medium of instruction. And it's also used for professional certification purposes. So lots and lots of people, millions of people do the IELTS exam. And if you're one of them, these speaking tips will really help you. They're general tips. They're not about the specific sections. They apply to all sections of the speaking test. Okay, let's get started. So the first point is during your speaking test, be formal. By that, I mean treat it like a job interview. And just as in a job interview, you'll be on your best behavior and so on, behave that way. Don't take it very casually, okay? Take it seriously and be formal. Next, give a full answer whenever possible. Now remember, and just think about it, you have about 11 to 15 minutes to use the best English that you know and that you've studied all your life, okay? So obviously, you want to try to show off during your English test. So when I say give a full answer, I mean in the first section, when they ask you some questions about you, about your family, about your background, if they say, for example, where are you from? Don't just say Tokyo, because that's just a one-word answer. Try as much as possible to give sentences. Give full sentences, right? Full answer. So that you can show when you use the full sentence that you know grammar, you know vocabulary, and all of these other things. So instead of saying just Tokyo, say, I'm from Tokyo, the capital of Japan. Or, I'm from the capital of Japan, Tokyo. Now, you've given a lot more information. So obviously, you'd get much more marks if you kept doing that throughout, right? Give full answers using sentences, not just words. Next, be polite. What we mean by that? For example, if the examiner asks you something and you didn't understand, it's okay. Just ask for the explanation in a polite way. Don't just say what or sorry. Say, excuse me, could you please repeat that? Because that's also using English. And that's what they want to know. Can you use English? And by being polite, you're not just showing that you know the language, but also that you know the culture of the language, which is being polite. Okay, so remember to do that. Next, maintain good posture. And why do I put that? Nobody's filming you, right? So why do you have to maintain good posture? Because your posture actually affects your the way you speak. Affects your confidence, the confidence with which you speak. It affects the way your voice is projected. So you want to make sure that you don't, for example, lean on your hand when you're speaking or anything like that. Okay? Make sure that you sit straight and don't put your hand anywhere near your face, even if you're nervous, because that will affect the quality of your voice and the way it's projected. Okay? Next. Number 5, speak clearly. Now, what I mean by this is don't worry too much about your accent. Everyone has an accent, and as long as you do your best to enunciate the words clearly, that's all you can do. If you need to improve your pronunciation, work on that before your exam. If there are some very specific pronunciation errors that you tend to make or that people from your country tend to make, then obviously work on those beforehand. For example, if you're a Spanish speaker and you say yes instead of yes, then that's a big mistake that you want to correct well before you come to the exam. So work on those pronunciation issues before, and then afterwards, don't worry about your accent. Just speak as clearly as you can. Okay? Next. Use descriptive words. By that, I mean, again, remember, we're supposed to show off, use the best English you have. So don't use boring words. Don't use overly used words like good, bad, okay, nice. Use exciting words. Use dynamic words to show that you have a rich vocabulary to express yourself in English. Don't just say good, or don't just say happy, say thrilled. Don't just say sad. You can say depressed. Use a more advanced word if you know it and if you're sure of the meaning. But most of all, try to stay away from the overly used words like good, bad, okay, nice. All right? Next. Speak up. Speak up means make sure you speak loudly enough to be heard and also recorded, because during the IELTS, for example, you are judged by that examiner and also you are recorded so that another examiner is going to listen to what you said during your English test. So speak clearly enough that the recording will allow you to be heard properly. Okay? Next. Keep a steady pace. That means don't speak too fast and don't speak too slowly. If you're not sure how fast you should speak, speak slower than you think is necessary, because that way it's much more likely that you will be understood. Okay? Next. Explain any foreign words that you use as part of your answer. What do I mean by that? And why should you be using foreign words? Well, foreign words can also be the names of cities, for example. So if they ask you where you're from, right, and you need to use the name of a city or a town, which is not common knowledge, like London or Paris. It may be not as common, and it may not be so easy to understand. So, instead of saying, for example, suppose you're from India, and you come from a city called Hyderabad. Now, Hyderabad is a bit of a mouthful. It's an unfamiliar word. So what you could do to make it easier and to get higher marks is, instead of just saying I come from Hyderabad, and the examiner might think, well, what did he say? What does that mean? I don't understand. So a way to get around that is to say, I come from a city in the southern part of India called Hyderabad. Now what you've done is you've given an explanation of what you're going to say, so the listener knows that there is a word coming, and even if I don't know it, I know what it means or what it refers to. So it will sound, in fact, like you speak better English because you have taken the listener into account. Okay? Next. Stay on topic. So even though I said speak in sentences, don't use too many sentences to answer any one question. So that, because if you do that, then the examiner will think that you don't understand the question. You want to make sure that you answer the question and don't go way beyond that. Okay? They always have enough questions to ask you, don't worry. Next, don't use slang. Again, you want to use your best English. And slang can even be things like kids. A lot of my students don't realize that you should be using the word children instead of kids. Or you should use the word items instead of things, stuff. This is all slang, okay? Slang is not just bad language, but also this kind of casual language, right? You don't want to use that kind of language in your English test or on your IELTS speaking test. Use the best English that you know. And last of all, don't memorize answers. A lot of students read model answers, and it's good to do that. It gives you an idea of how to answer. But what you should do from that is to take ideas about how to structure your answer, take some vocabulary, take some expressions, but don't try to memorize the answer because it's going to sound very artificial, and if you forget, it's going to completely fall apart. And also, the examiners are quite experienced. They can usually tell if you're suddenly, giving like a little speech, and they'll know that's not you because you also answered, 15 other questions and you didn't sound like that. And all of a sudden you give this little mini speech and it doesn't sound good. And they might not give you marks for that at all because it's not you speaking. You just memorized something. They don't want to know what you can memorize. They want to know what you can say when you're using the language by itself in a natural way. Okay? So learn how to benefit from those kind of model answers, but don't memorize. Okay? And I assure you that if you do a lot of these things, or all of these things, you're definitely going to get a much higher score on your IELTS speaking test and also on any oral English exam. Okay? If you'd like to do a quiz on these points, please go to our website, www.ingvid.com. Thanks for watching and good luck with your IELTS or any English exam. Bye for now. By the way, go to my website, www.goodluckielts.com for lots more information on how to do well on your IELTS exam. Bye.